first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We thank you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. What up, folks? It's Thursday. The Midlife Crisis crew is here, and we're freaking excited. We got Talha here tonight. It is about 3 a.m. This dude's a freaking road beast. He's in the middle of the world, but he is here making it happen. But before we get into all the fun and amazingness, Maddie Boom Boom, how you doing, brother?
Dude, you know I'm doing amazing. Loving life. Great day. Not the best in Florida, but you have to have that every once in a while. But dude, I'll tell you what I'm excited about is our daily conversations have been getting juicy, man. The stuff that's going on is out of this world. There's just so much stuff happening. There's so many irons in the fire. It's kind of cool because when you first start something, when you start a venture, it's very quiet, right? It's just you working. And that's all you get. And every once in a while you get some feedback, and there gets to this point where there's a tipping point where there's a ton of stuff to do. There's always that, but there's so much stuff to do that you have to start figuring out how you're going to outsource. How am I going to outsource certain things? Because there's so many amazing things happening. We can't do it all. And it's just one of those cool things. Like, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
And I've just been really embracing and grateful that we're at that point and we're at that stage, that traction's really, really picking up right now for not only midlife, but for all our other ventures, man. And it's amazing. And here we are on stream night, and this is one of the constants. And this is one of my favorite things to do, man, make a friend. And, we love figuring out, we love being around successful people. I feel like iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
This is how we all get better, man. And this is cool. We get to do what we do. What about you, man?
Bro, you just get me even more amped. I get amped every day. Obviously, we have bad days, but the one thing that I get amped is I got a corporate shit job. But I know that what I'm working towards on the outside of corporate America, which I don't think fondly of, can get me to a better place by doing things that I love like this day in and day out. And like you said, when you're starting to have the final conversation, by the way, this is the thing that needs to be repeated a bajillion times online. I was in a space earlier today, and it's like you read all of this stuff, especially in the NFT space, and you're like, this is instant fame. People, we have been streaming every Tuesday and Thursday pretty much. Haven't missed many, a handful of them for 2.5, almost 3 years. And guess what? We still only have 6,000 followers on Twitter. But we've put in the time because we know that in the end, relationships like Talha and other ones that we've had in the past are going to bear insane amount of fruit, and that day will come. So it's just exciting, man. It's exciting, and I don't want to delay anymore, man. Get to the intros. Let's have this badass conversation. I'm excited. And by the way, Talha, I don't think I told you in the kind of the pre warm-up show, we are a mature show, so you can drop a curse here and there. Just don't get naked on screen or start smoking a joint, and we'll be fine.
Yes, exactly. The standards of conduct for Twitch do apply. So, but everything else is good. Yeah, man, this is gonna be a great conversation, and I'm excited about it. I do need to do a real quick little shameless. If this is your first time watching Midlife Crisis, you better hit that like button if you're watching on YouTube, and you better hit that subscribe button because you're about to go on an adventure with us. And let me tell you why.
I love it.
We got Talha with us tonight, and Talha is rocking it from Bahrain. And I can't even pronounce it right, but I did know it was an island. I knew it was a tiny little island, and we'll probably get into how that all happened as well. But how many people do you meet from there? I mean, honestly, right? That's kind of a cool thing. That's one of those things when you're learning about the world, you're like, there's people that are there, but what are they doing? You know what I mean? And I'm excited to hear about it. But here's the juice, right? Talha's been an entrepreneur since he was 16. He's built 3 different companies. He's currently running a company right now, which is, and I hope I say it right, but it's nalikesstudio. And here's the thing. It's a web3 development studio, but who they've worked with, his resume of clients is pretty astounding. And I'm going to roll it up there. He's got American Crypto Academy. He's got the Hoopas, right? XNFT, but the name that got my attention is Bugatti Group. And if you know Bugatti, you don't have to say any more than that, right? It's like, it's hard to be, when you think about what like Ferrari is to Honda, it's wild to think that something can be like that to Ferrari. And so definitely some rare air. Unbelievable background when it comes to that. But here's what I'm excited to get into is when we asked him what a fun fact was, he said he has spent the last 3 years totally transforming himself, and he is no longer the person he once was. But he does on the side, he's a reader. I think that was part of that transformation. He sings, he plays guitar, and his why, his motivation, what inspires him each day is he wants to inspire other people, which means he's got a giving heart. And that is such a massive, massive component to people who achieve just wide renowned success is there has to be something bigger than you that's driving you, or you can't do this every day because it's a grind. And so, man, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you. I cannot wait to hear your story. It's going to be a blast.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really excited.
Absolutely, man. And like I said, we don't waste any time. We're getting straight into it. We're going to reiterate. It is now world famous. You know why? Because we call it world famous. The world famous midlife crisis question. Give us how you got to the seat you're sitting in today, please, through the eyes of Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3, which is your origin story to what you're doing now. Episode 1, reminder for everyone, is childhood memories and influences. 2, your professional career. 3, how you found Web3 and what are you doing now. Cannot wait to hear it, man.
Definitely. So I'm originally I was born in Pakistan in 99. My parents immigrated to UAE, which is a country right next to Bahrain. And all my life, I was told one thing, that Talha, the only way to get ahead in life was to be good at school, right? So you have to get good grades so you can get a good job and then you can go ahead. I was told, and I was sort of programmed in such a way. And that's what I did. From grade 1 till grade 12, I was always at the top of my class. I had nothing else going on in my life. I told, okay, my mother told me that I have to study hard, and that's what I did. So again, all growing up, there was a lot of lack. There was a lot of, and growing up in a lower middle class family, you have to face these hardships. And again, being an immigrant, your life is a little difficult. So again, that's how I was nurtured and how I was built, that I had to work hard. I had to work harder than the person right next to me, because that's the only way I can beat them. So since I was a kid, I had this mentality that I will overwork other people. No matter if they are smarter, no matter if they have more resources, I will overwork them. That's the way I got ahead. Interesting thing happened when I went to university. I sort of enrolled myself in software engineering because I asked one of my uncle what to do, and I was like, Talha, IT is a really big industry. Go do software engineering. I was like, cool, I would do it. I'm good at studying. I will figure it out how to do it. But when I was in first year, I started noticing some stuff, right? That if I kept on doing what I'm doing, I would still be doing a job. I would still be working under someone else, and I would not be able to reach the goals that my parents wish that he reached there, right? So I sort of shifted my focus from my studies, and I was like, okay, I'm going to study only that I can get passing grades. All my time would be spent on learning skills, right? Which was like I had to figure out how to make money. So I was in this process of figuring out how to make money, where my father lost his job, and there was no income from my family, right? And again, I was at 16 years old. I was a really good student, but I could not go out there and make a single dollar. So when you're in such a position to make money, the natural thing that is like, okay, go get a job. So I call one of my friends from university, like, I need a job. And I was like, okay, there's this job that'll pay you around $500-$600 and you have to stand 8 hours a day. I was like, cool, I would do it. I'm desperate. I need the money. I'll do anything. I went ahead, I did the interview. For some reason, I did not get the job. But now I was in this position where I had to make the money in 4 days. So I started thinking myself, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I thought to myself, okay, I'm really good at writing, right? I can write stuff. And what I noticed that the students around me were really lazy. They hated doing their projects. So I thought to myself, okay, what if I can do this for them and ask them if they'll pay me for that? I asked one of my friends that I can help you in your project. Would you pay me? He's like, sure, I would pay you. So I told him, okay, give me 30 minutes. I still remember that day. I was sitting on my bed in my shorts on my laptop. In 30 minutes, I did the project. I sent him the project, and then he sort of sent me the money through an app called Benefit Pay, is like a Venmo. And I was like, wow, I just made $60 in 30 minutes. Again, at that time, when I was not familiar with freelancing and all that kind of stuff. So that was a turning point in my life that I would never work for anyone. I just have to figure this out and I have to scale it. Just to give a comparison, my father, before he lost his job, he used to work at a bank, and he used to make around $30 a day, and I just made $60, around $70 in just 30 minutes. So that was sort of like it changed my complete mindset, because again, in my surroundings, everyone had a job. No one did their own business. So again, I was not exposed to these kind of things. And from there on, then I decided, all right, I just have to scale this. So what I did
That's
was that I sort of
amazing. Hold on real quick though, because you're already at
yeah
16 starting businesses. Phenomenal intro. You got me jazzed for the rest. But we do want just a little more sprinkle of the childhood part. So you said a couple things already that are interesting. Life a little bit harder for being an immigrant. Would love any insight into that. And then we'll follow up with a couple more questions from the childhood. But let's start at the immigrant part. Um, any learning lessons or insights there for people that have, gone through it, that could relate to it? I didn't go through such a thing. Anything that you would want to share with us? Love to hear that part.
Definitely. So my father and mother, they met each other in school, and they had sort of a love marriage, and their initial life was really good. And my father built this business from ground up back in the day, but sort of his family cheated him, and so he had to immigrate and start from scratch. So we sort of went from having everything to having nothing. And that was very difficult initially, right? And there was a time where we didn't even had enough money to pay for my school fees. So my mother had to start teaching. My mother has to do tuition. My father has to do two jobs. So I sort of witnessed all those things. And I think when you are a child and you see your parents working so hard, it changes you, right? You start to value things more, and you sort of become more motivated. Because I have friends right now who have everything in the world, right? But they don't want to do anything. They're lazy. Because again,
Yeah.
I tell them, okay, because you have been given everything on a plate, and those who don't, they know the real value of these things. And growing up, obviously it was difficult, but I think if I did not face those things, I would not be in this seat, as you said, right? Uh, but yeah, there was not a lot. It's just like we had nothing to do, so all my time was focused on this one thing, which is study, 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 study.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I'm grateful. I have no complaints. I with the little that we had, we did our best. Even
Right.
though my parents they don't have all the means, but they made sure that we had good clothes, we had food and roof and everything. That we had the basics needs, so that was cool.
Dude, thank you for sharing that, because you already said something beautiful that we talk a lot about on this show, right? Is like you from going from everything to nothing, which not a lot of people don't. And I can relate to that because I went through that, like, health wise, right? And you can go through everything to nothing in a lot of different ways. But for you to then come back and say that's why you're ambitious and that's why you want to learn, that's such a great talking point that people cannot hear enough. So I appreciate you sharing that. Maddie, any thoughts?
Yeah. So you said before your dad was a business owner, and you guys had a lot because of that success. But then you mentioned though that when you were talking about how much he made in a day, that he worked at a bank, right? So he went from owning a business to working for somebody else, which by the way is hard to do. Once you're an entrepreneur, you said it, right? You're never going to work for somebody else. It's very difficult once you've earned your own money. You're like, it's tough to let somebody else dictate that.
Exactly.
was part of your maybe part of their uh, trying to communicate to you as much as they could to work hard? Was that a reflection of like that entrepreneurship was risky and they were trying to steer you away from it? Or how did that work? You know what I mean? Were you still encouraged to be an entrepreneur? Because it sounded like you were being encouraged to just be good in school and then get the job. Like you said, get the job, get in, and you make it. Tell us about that.
It's, yeah, there are a couple of reasons, right? Initially, he was an entrepreneur. He was a business owner because it was our own country. You know, we knew the language, we knew the people, we had the resources, we had the access to it. But starting a business in a foreign country where you don't speak the language, where you don't have the resources, or you don't even know where your next meal is going to come from, it sort of discourages people, right? And when again having, because I have three, like right now we have three. At that time I had two brothers, so like he had to support a family of three. So again, I think when someone is put into this situation where families come first, so they sort of let their dreams and aspirations die just to make sure to provide for their family. And I think that's what happened in his case. And then again, I'm grateful for him is that he sort of put his dreams aside, everything, so just he could provide for us. So I would be very grateful for him. And yeah, and it sort of it made us our family overall risk averse. They that don't take risk, don't take risk. And I'll tell you later on how I sort of had to face these challenges of starting a business. Yeah.
Dude, I
Very
love it.
cool.
Maddie, any other thoughts? I got one or two more.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think what you just a perfect example, I think, of what I'm looking for is going from everything to nothing and the lessons you learn from that. Looking back at your childhood, whether it's you've talked about your parents a lot, any influence or other lessons you've learned just when you reminisce about your childhood or reflect or think back on it. Anything else that you want to talk about before we get into the you being an entrepreneur? Because I can tell how excited you are about it.
Um, I think okay. So there's one thing. Okay, so I'm a Muslim and I believe in God and all these kind of stuff. So there's a saying that before the Creator puts you in a position, He makes you ready for it. He makes you prepare for it, right? So I think all those things that were happening to me at that time, I did not understand, right? But now when I look back, I realize, okay, I'm in this position. If I hadn't faced those challenges, right, where there were days where we had nothing, there were days where, people came to us for asking for money, knocking on our door, like, where's the rent? Where is this one? So, and again, I think I am prepared right now for those kind of things. If I hadn't faced those things, so I think so sort of life was training me at that point. Some people might think it, okay, why me? Now I think, okay, my perspective was try me, right? So I have been through all these things that people don't face for like until they get in 30s or 35s. I have seen everything. So now even if that happens, I am not scared or worried or afraid. It's like, okay, I've been through that.
Dude, I love that insight because we're literally named midlife crisis because unfortunately we had a little bit of a later come to quote unquote Jesus moment, right? And but exactly what you said, going through these trials and tribulations, your mindset shifts, you understand what's important, and then failure is not really failure anymore. It doesn't scare you as much because then you really get the perspective, and it's different for everybody, right? That's the hardest part is you can say this stuff till you're blue in the face, but until you resonate personally with it, go through it personally, and it clicks, you can talk all you want and it's never going to change you. Maddie, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think that one thing that people can overlook is the power of pain. When you go through stuff, I really liked your insight. There's a faith component, right? And you mentioned that. And when you can switch your thinking to recognizing that the trouble, the pain, the hard part, right, is preparation rather than punishment, it's a whole shift in mentality. And it sounds like you were able to do that at a very young age, which quite frankly is extremely mature. A lot of people, well, some people never get to there, right? They always have a reason. There's always an excuse. It's somebody else's fault. If this hadn't happened to me, I'd have been this. If this hadn't happened to me, I'd be this. And you have to look inwards and say, I'm becoming who I need to be to achieve what I want to achieve. And I think that's really cool that you realize that. That's awesome.
Dude, already phenomenal episode 1. Maddie, any other thoughts before we kind of move into the beginning of episode 2 and this entrepreneurship bug that really seems like it changed the course of Talha's life?
Yeah. No, I'm good, man. I want to get into that stuff. I think it's going to be a good part of the conversation.
All right, man. So take us there. I kind of interrupted because I wanted to make sure we got some of these awesome tidbits that we just got. You're now realizing, light bulb went off. Holy shit, I made $60 in a half hour. There's something here. There's something here. Take us through this kind of beginning of episode 2 and the professional career and the entrepreneurship bug.
Amazing. Before I go ahead, I'm telling you, I sort of meeting Matt for the first time, Mike for the second time, and I already have this feeling that I know you from a long time. I don't know why there's this instant connection.
I love it.
Amazing.
I love it.
Amazing. I'm not saying for the sake of saying it, but I'm not sure what, is it you guys have some technique or something, but I'm like feeling I have a connection with you guys.
We're vibing
Hey,
hard,
we're just
vibing hard.
Relatability, man. We know it. We've experienced these things, and so it's really cool. Like I said, iron sharpens iron, man. You're making things happen.
Amazing. So yeah, I was sitting on my bed, $60, cool, and I was like, okay, I just have to figure it out how to scale it, right?
Yep.
And again, luckily, once you have made a decision that you want to change your life, and I sort of subconsciously changed the decision. So this was my condition. I was very overweight, like I was 120 kg. I had zero confidence, zero public speaking skills. I was not good at anything. I was bad at sports, everything. I was just good at one thing, which was studying. So I sort of made a conscious decision that I want to improve myself, right? I sort of started asking the universe, I want to improve. So one day when I was in university, and again, this was like everything was happening at the same time. I went into the library and I never read a book in my life, right? Apart from the academic books, I never even bothered to read anything, right? Because I was like, why should I read? I already read like 12 hours a day in school. Why should I read it? So I went ahead and I accidentally picked up a book in the self-help section. And that book literally, again, amazing.
Hell yes, brother. That's one of the best books ever written.
Exactly. So when I read that book, I think you have that book.
Boom.
Ah, there it is.
I have. It is.
Man.
Look out that age. Look at that. See the highlights? See the highlights?
Man.
It's in there, man.
Yeah.
Well
those
read.
pages are a little yellow. It's been aging.
Yep. It's oldie but goodie. It's a classic. I love it.
Amazing. So when I read this book, another sort of, unlock moment happened in mind that human beings, anything can be improved, right? Initially, I was because from the circumstances of the environment I came from, it was like a lot of negativity around me. A lot of, you can't do it. You are not good enough, like all these kind of stuff. But this book taught me that you can be learned, right? If you want to make money, you can make money. If you want to get better, anything can be done. And then this book led me to Think and Grow Rich. And that book led me to Start With Why. That book led me to Leaders Eat Last. And then I was like in a rabbit hole of self-improvement. So that was going on where and then I signed up for a gym membership and I was like, I want to get in this perfect shape. So I was working on my fit health. I was working on reading book and again, the making money. For the making money part, I sort of, again, started doing that is that in just my university, I started talking to a lot of different people. Okay, who needs more help, right? Whom can I help? Because again, these students were rich, right? Because again, I was studying at a good university. I was fortunate enough to, and they were like rich kids, but they, again, coming from rich families and they had the money, but they don't want to study. So I knew that I sort of started becoming good at making friends with people. So I did that. And then what I did, I went on Fiverr, which is a freelancing platform, and I just talked to like 300, 400 writers in a month. And I sort of, again, because the service I was providing was mostly writing projects for university projects. And then I made a list of 20 writers, right? And I made a WhatsApp group. And what I used to do, I used to get a project, send in the group, whoever gave me the cheapest price and the fastest time, I would send him the money and then he would do the work. And so just to give you an example, I used to charge like $500 and I used to pay the guy $50 to do the work. And I used to make $450, all from my WhatsApp, right? And I started enjoying the process of like money hitting my bank account. Like, and again, all I had to do is basically manage writers, right? And all I had to do is talk to people. So I was enjoying the process. So I spent the next 2 years in my university scaling this agency. And I took it to a stage where it was completely automated. And then what I sort of learned was delegation. Another thing happened was that at this time, my father had started businesses again, right? Again, my mother did not, my family didn't knew I was doing, right? That they knew just that he was supporting us financially, but they did not know I was doing a business, right? They was like, just focus on your studies. But I was like, okay, if I can provide, do this, let me do that. And I even told at one point, Mama, I call my mother Mama, I want to leave this. I want to focus on this. Like, no, I spent so much time and so much money on you. I need that degree on the wall. I was like, cool, I'll get that degree for you. And my father started this business again, and he sort of, the business was not working. So again, when I was sitting in his office one day, I sort of again accidentally picked up a book, and that book was called A for Management Consultant. One lesson from that book got me was a word called Gemba. So in these manufacturing companies, whenever any problem arises, the manager, what they used to do is go figure out the Gemba. Gemba means the root cause of the problem. Okay, if something is not working, why isn't it working? So I took that concept really personally, right? So I told to myself, okay, if my father's business isn't working, what is the problem? What's wrong? So I had to trace back and I figured out it's a leadership, right? The person who's running the business, if he is not correct or he doesn't know how to do stuff, everything wouldn't be fall in place. So I sort of started, um, reading more about leaderships because I sort of took ownership that if I'm doing a business, I am responsible for everything. If anything goes wrong, I am responsible for it. If anything goes wrong in my house, I won't blame. I would take ownership because that's what leaders do. So again, that was happening. So that business was, so in a position where it was giving me a good income. But us as human beings, once we have once a mind is stretched by new experience, it can never go back to its previous state, right? When I used to tell my friend that I had this agency that is making dollars, like, cool, man, why are you? I was like, no, I want to do more. Because again, you become more hungry. So I sort of, because again, in that business, I wasn't seeing scale. I got to a stage where, I reached a certain point and I was not able to make more money than that. So I sort of delegated that business to one of my friends and I told him, okay, just keep running it until I go figure out what to do next. So again, what I did was, and again, meanwhile, again, again, because as Steve Jobs said that you can never figure out what life when you look ahead, but you can figure out once you look back, right? So at that point, I sort of became friends with two guys named Talha and Shehroz. And these guys are till my co-founders till today. And these guys were really, really, really good programmers, like geniuses, right? Although I was studying software engineering, but I wasn't very good at it. So if you, let's say if you told me to build a mobile application, it would took me 1 week, where they can do it in 2 to 3 days, right? So I knew that so I sort of had to amplify my strength and not focus on my weaknesses and let focus on their strength. So I took the same model, which was, you sort of understand the model, right? Get work from here and do it there. So I told these guys, I'll bring in work, you execute. So we started doing that. But this time we started building softwares, mobile apps, web application. It was going very cool. While we were doing it, these sort of learning, programming, development, we were in university. I attended no classes. All I did was just go into exams and just make sure I passed, because I sort of understood that this won't help me because again, I think I'm fortunate enough to realize that if I had spent a lot of time on my studies, I wouldn't in university, right, doing those discrete mathematics, physics, or all this chemistry, which I'm never going to do read again in my life if I don't go in that field. I only focus on the things that I knew would matter, which was basically communications, understanding human beings, and basically software, which is basically doing this stuff. So one day, one of my friends said, "Hi, there's this event in the morning. Just make sure you come there." I set an alarm for 8 a.m. and I was like, "I don't want to go. I'm tired." He was like, "Just come." Okay, I dressed up and I went to the event. This was this completely new building, and we didn't know where we were, right? So we sat there like 10, 20 people, and the guy comes and he was like, "Okay, I am Nadal from AWS." Now, AWS is Amazon Web Services, right? The company. And Amazon coming to Bahrain was a very big deal. Every guy in our university wanted to work in that company. And we were like, cool, we're sitting here, what to do? We did not know that this was AWS. But when we found out that this is AWS, we were very shocked. Long story short, they had an 18-day hackathon where we had to build products using AI. And we sort of did a couple of ideas. One of our friends says, okay, why? And during those days, one video got viral where there was a deaf guy. He was trying to order food through a McDonald's driveway, and the guy was taking the order was being very rude to it. And that told me, like, can we do something with this? Like, cool, we can bring a sign language translator, which will solve this problem. And that kind of clicked. So we spent the next 18 days building a prototype which basically help deaf people communicate. So let's say if I am a deaf individual, so the only way I can communicate with you is either through lip sync or sign language. And if you don't understand sign language, there's going to be a very hard time. Either you have to bring in a translator or you have to learn sign language. So we realized there were 400 million people in the world who were deaf. So we thought, okay, we would do it. We built the prototype and we won the hackathon. We weren't expecting to win the hackathon. So we got the first prize. And that sort of, again, got us famous in Bahrain, in our country, and every universe. Like, these guys built this, and we had no idea what we were doing. We just sort of found some code online, we played around with it, and we launched the product. Then they were like, okay, you guys did something really great. The government wants to support it. Would you be interested in internship? Like, cool, why not? And the thing is, that program was supposed to be for fourth-year students. We were second-year students. We were just in the right place at the right time. We did an internship there for 1 year. It was an amazing time. We had great mentors. We learned a lot about technicalities. And again, working in a company such as AWS changes your complete personality and the way you approach problems. And then they told, okay, go build a startup around this, right? So we built a prototype, which was called VoiceMate, and there's a video on YouTube. I'll share a link later on. It's VoiceMate and SignMate. So let's say if I am doing sign language in front of a camera, the camera would take will recognize my finger, my signs, and then convert into a voice. And when you would speak to the application would sign back. So this was a prototype. Now the problem was that they should go build a company around it. So I had built an agency, but building a startup, a tech startup, it's different, right? Because agency is very simple work, but doing technical requires innovation, a lot of time, a lot of money. So we thought, okay, we will go try to raise funds. We did not knew a single thing about raising money. So we were just going to these investors and being, ridiculed. Like nobody was giving us money. So we were like asking for around $100,000, and we had zero explanation of what we would do with that $100,000. Because again, we were three guys. We knew how to code. We knew how to do a little bit thing, but we did not know how to run a startup. So while we were doing that, I was again doing my other stuff, because again, my goal was always make as much money as possible, as fast as possible. So I was scrolling through TikTok one day and I found this one guy talking about drop shipping. And that idea of drop shipping really fascinated me, which was basically you can have an online store and you don't have to keep any inventory. You just have to bring in customers, and then AliExpress will ship. And I was like, cool, this is how I will make my first $1 million. And so I was convincing my friend, let's drop this. We did enough. Cool, let it go. We can have it as a portfolio project. Let's focus on this. But my other friends, they're not motivated by money. They like to build stuff. They like to solve problems. They are completely opposite of who I am. They're like, no, Talha, we want to do this. This is bigger. We're like, cool. So we were sort of figuring it out in 2021. Then one day, now that's where Web3 comes in, is Shehroz, my co-founder. He's like, Talha, there is something called NFT. I was like, shut up. Let's focus on dropshipping.
We're hitting episode 3. We're hitting episode 3.
Before Matt asks a question, chat's on fire, and I just want to recognize you're straight up glowing, bro. Your energy is fire. One of the many reasons we vibe so hard and we're going to be best friends for life. You're just getting me excited, man. I just need to say that. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm going to go all the way back, man. So you've said some great things. And some of this was even before we got into episode 2, which was the importance of learning skills is such a valuable thing. And, Mark Twain famously said, never let schooling get in the way of your education. Right. And so one of the things I think is huge is you recognize that at such a young age. But 2, well, let me say this. What skills have you found now looking back that were like the key skills that made a difference? You know what I mean? Because it's easy to say something like that, but then, what do I do with it? Like, what skills? And I have my answer to that, but I'm just curious to hear what you come up with.
And again, I speak from experience. It's basically understanding human beings, listening, and being able to take a very difficult idea and communicate in a precise way. I think those were the main things. And then selling, not like, selling, like being able to identify if someone has a problem and then seeing what you're providing basically has a solution to it. So I think selling, and then basically public speaking, being able to, because again, storytelling, I think that's the main thing. But mainly listening and understanding, because half of the time, if you listen to the other person, the problem is solved. That's what I think.
Yep. They tell you exactly what they want you to do. Yeah. I love that, man. That is fantastic. It gives me chills because I preach this all the time. I've taught a lot of people sales. I've taught a lot of people how to communicate better with other people. And I'm just a product of the books I've read and the mentors I've had, right? And so they take all the credit. But to your point, if you can connect with people fast and build a friendship, your potential is unlimited. But to your point, and then if you can take that and solve problems and explain complex problems in a simplified way so they can be solved, that's it. That's the key to being a multimillionaire. And then finding the right team of people to delegate the work part to. And one of the reasons that Mikey and I just, are such good friends, Mikey can make a friendship in 1 second. It's unbelievable. You've never seen anybody make a friend as fast as Mike Grant does. It's wild. And so he's got a gift with it. And it's interesting to see the success that he's been able to have with that, and watching his rise success. So I love that you shared that. Let me ask you, my follow-up question is this. Now that you know that, and this is maybe more of a rhetorical question, but doesn't it just irk you that this stuff isn't taught when we're like 7 and 8 years old? I wish that teachers, instead of saying, Matt, you need to know the periodic table, would have said, you need to read Dale Carnegie and understand how to communicate with people. Like that would have, by the way, even if it was just for the selfish reason of getting accepted to a college, people skills help you with that, whatever it is. It's just wild. What do you think about that? Why do you think it is so few people get into this? Like, I need to learn the right skills. And why do you think that's not widely taught? Because everyone who seems to learn it recognizes its power.
Okay, so let me give you more context. So the education system that I have been through, which is sort of it's sort of the education system in Asia, India, Pakistan mostly. And the things that they teach are basically 20 or 30 years old, right? They don't even teach the latest stuff. People skills or all these books come at a very later stage. So the education curriculum is like 30 years old. They're teaching stuff that is outdated, right? And they're asking kids to memorize stuff, right? I've been through this. I have memorized 3-4 pages that I don't use anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an answer to it because, and again, like now I know this stuff. I try to tell to my brothers, even my brothers, right? Grown in the same house, they don't get it. If I'm not able to explain my brothers, I don't have an answer for this as of now.
Yeah.
But at a later stage in life, I will come back to this and figure out a solution.
Let me ask you this question then. Your brothers didn't get it. Why did you get it?
Oh, that's very interesting.
It's a great question.
I don't know. I think I just had this deep burning desire that I want to improve my circumstances, and I was willing to do anything, apart from unethical or wrong things, anything.
Yeah.
And I think that
if I had,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, burning desire.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I think that not ladders back, but links back to what I was saying before, even to, to talk about what Matt's saying is, yes, there's a clear, like, why are we not reading Dale Carnegie's book earlier? But it's still you can read all day long. But until you feel it, until you feel that burning desire to be different, to do something different, to be better and improve, you can literally have a conversation with yourself. I'm going to do it, but then not do it, right? And I think a lot of people sit in that camp because I think there still goes back to this primal state of like our brains want to keep ourselves safe. And to do all these things that we're talking about, you have to be completely comfortable with being uncomfortable constantly. And
Yeah.
people do not like to feel that way. I actually literally said that in my meeting today. I mean, just my like day job. I've literally had 5 different jobs in 3 years, and people are like, "Whoa, that's crazy." And I'm like, honestly, I like being uncomfortable because I get to learn new things and meet new people, right? But that is such a hard mindset to get to. But that burning desire, really, really interesting
Yeah.
point.
It's a good answer. It's a good answer.
And I think motivation gets you started, but what keeps you going is discipline. And there's this guy I've been following
Ooh,
recently. I'm not sure it's this guy called Brian Johnson. I'm not sure, he's like a billionaire. He founded Braintree and Venmo, and he sort of has created this called the blueprint, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically he's sort of spending millions of dollars on himself, figuring out how to be, in the best. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to reverse his age. And one thing when I got from his videos is basically, don't let your mind take the decisions. Let your body take decision. And what he was saying was that, again, the habits or the systems that you've built. So I read this book from James Clear. You are the product of the system that you build. So recently, I had this habit of scrolling late at night, right? And every day I had this on my bedside. So what I did was that before I get to bed, I lock it down and I go keep it on all the way at the end of the book, and then I came back. If I don't have the phone right next to me, I won't scroll. And then I want to drink a lot of water. So what I did, I placed bottles all around my house. So naturally, I would do a lot of things. So going back to it, so you have sort of built processes and systems and discipline if you want to achieve everything. Because if we only rely on motivation, we will not get anywhere
right.
because it dies. Yeah.
It's such a great point. And then I would ladder up. I'd say there's 3 pieces, right? So like having the self-realization and self-awareness, and figuring out how to create that feeling of that burning desire that you were talking about. 2, building the discipline to then act upon that burning desire. But 3, which you said at the beginning, and I think this is the hardest thing for people to feel out, is all of that aside, what is your meaning, right? Still probably one of the most, if not, other than the Bible,
What's your why?
is Man's Search for Meaning, right, by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
And it's a psychologist, like, PhD on exactly that. Once the father, the mother knew their family was gone, they were gone, right? And that meaning and that why, and you said it eloquently in the beginning, and it's what Maddie and I, yes, money is nice, but you have, I've been very fortunate. I'm in a great position, and I've been able to spend money and have cool things, but that does not make you happy. What does make you happy is having 5 diehards in chat listening to you twice a week because you're sharing knowledge that is making them better. You're getting better yourself, and we're meeting people like you, right? And we can give that gift back to people. Like that's a meaning. So if you take all of those 3 things combined of what we're saying, that's where real special things happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you read Think and Grow Rich, right? And Napoleon Hill says you have to have a definiteness of purpose, right? It's your why. What is it that makes you, get up? And we've heard this, a lot of success books, most success books will get down to a core principle. Like if you don't know your why, I mean, how many terms have we heard? We've heard that a lot of different ways. You have to know why you're going to do this. And but I love I think you nailed it though, about discipline keeps you going. And you have to find systems. You have to hack it. You can't just like white knuckle it. I'm just going to do it cold turkey. I'm going. Nobody can keep up with that. It's impossible. You have to set yourself up to win. And I love that. That's a fantastic insight. Dude, you're going to write a book. You're going to write a book. It's going to be awesome. So, and I'm going to read it. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's one of my plans. So when I first read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, so I went Google and I looked, when was this book released? In 1936. It's been 100 years, and this book really helped me improve my life. I want to do the same thing when I get to that stage. So that someone from 100 years reading from now, they can benefit. And just to, if we are in the point of why, I really love this question. So whenever I'm meeting with someone, I ask them, what is your why? Because it gives me a complete story of who they are and where they're going. So you mentioned the book, Man's Search for Meaning. Yeah. So when I was in this process, I had a very sort of incident in my life that sort of took my spark away. Sort of, I became depressed. I became, again, I wasn't this Talha. I became everything was going down. So I came across this book, and in that book, that guy went through all of that stuff, and he still kept on living. I was like,
Yep.
okay, my life is really better. He has been through worse, and I can't complain about that. So that sort of changed me, and from that I sort of decided my why is that I want to inspire people, because a lot of people around me were, again, I was sad, I was depressed, and it's really difficult to come back from that situation. It's easier to say, okay, cheer up. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to come back from that way. So I had to figure out that's where I figured out my why.
Yeah.
And I need to inspire people.
Absolutely, man. And it's great. I mean, again, reading, right? Learning, growing got you to even have that a thought from once again, a guy that wrote a book a long time ago. One other thing that I think that we talk about a lot though in discipline too is and I say this narrative a lot though is discipline only works if it works for you as well, just like all of the other things, right? Like you read a book that tells you, oh, to be successful, you have to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, right? How many books have been written about 5 a.m. clubs or being the 5 a.m.? Yes, waking up early gives you more time in the day. But if that doesn't work for you, figure out what does to give yourself more time in the day, right? Which is maybe stop watching TV, stop playing video games, whatever it may be. But I think there's a lot, and especially this day and age of media and content creation and everything, there's so much projected on you that it's like they sell it as black and white. If you don't do X, you will not be successful. And there's not enough of take all of these tools and figure out what works for you to be that next level, right? What are your thoughts there?
There's no one path, right?
Yeah.
I did all of this stuff, wake up at 5 a.m., take cold showers, and my mother was like, are you crazy? I was like, no, I'm trying to do something. I used to wake up, do a run, but that wasn't working for me. So I sort of figured out, okay, those are the things that worked for them. They don't necessarily have to work for me. I just have to pick what works for me.
Right.
So again, there's no one definite path.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that discipline is still a key component of anyone's success. But I don't think it's fair to define what discipline means. Discipline does not mean wake up early. Discipline just means if you say you're going to do it, you do it, whatever that is. And I think that, and you keep doing it. And the path, as you said, is different for everybody, for sure. There are definite, kind of like a North Star for a lot of people that, we should probably be thinking about. But yeah, I think that at the end of the day, we have to find our own path. So we're working through your path. Mikey, did you have any other questions on? No,
I'm just saying you said it. 2? You said it great. You just said what I said in a different way, which is great. But yeah, go ahead, Manny. Let's move it forward. I mean, energy's so here's. I'm excited. Let's keep rolling.
We're about to get to episode 3, but just because we started way back on Dale Carnegie. But moving into you started these businesses, right? I mean, you won this competition, right? Because of the sign language interpretation. You started developing that, and then you're going out. I loved how you said, you had no idea what you were doing, but you were just asking for money. There's a real nugget there for people to hear when they hear why so many businesses fail. Is because the same thing happens, right? You have this idea, but then all of a sudden somebody says, oh, I need money for it. What does that mean? How do I do that? How do I articulate that? How do I build a business plan? People don't know this stuff. Again, this isn't explained to anybody. It's not taught. And so as you're doing this stuff, kind of pounding the pavement, what were some of the things then that were kind of guiding you through it? Because you said you wanted to make as much money as fast as possible, but your friends were more interested in solving the problem and figuring it out. Tell us a little about that dynamic, and you still pursued entrepreneurship. So how did that work through?
Yeah. Again, I'm really fortunate to have met those guys. I'll talk a lot about them in the next phase, but if those guys weren't here, my life would have been different, because I think the people that come into your life really help you be the person you are. Mm-hmm. So going back to the first venture. So in the first venture, it was very simple. There was no fixed cost. There was no initial capital needed. All I had to do was hustle, right? I need to find projects, execute projects, keep my cut. Cool. I sort of skipped a lot of different things that I did in the middle. I sort of started another business for selling books. So what I used to do is basically I used to have this Instagram page where I used to ask people, which book do you want? And so like, I need this book, but I can't find it. I will find it for you, but I'll charge a premium for it. And so if someone needs a Harry Potter and they can't find it, I'll go and find it out all the way at the end of the country, and I'll bring it back and I'll charge my premium. So I did that startup as well. But again, in that startup, it was purely hustle. No initial capital needed, no nothing needed. Then I did another startup for, you mentioned IKEA initially. So IKEA came into Bahrain and it was a really big deal, right? But a lot of people did not knew that you could find such great furniture from IKEA. So what I used to do is I used to buy, I sort of started doing dropshipping initially is like I took a picture, went into IKEA, took a picture, put it on Instagram or OLX or Expatriate, and sort of, again, did put my markup. And again, in all those businesses, and I used to sell that, right? And I only bought it when someone gave me an order. I used to go in IKEA with my phone and I used to take pictures. So in all those businesses, it was purely hustle, right? I did not knew why you need money to build a business. But when we're in this position, we wanted to do a startup, right? So there were like costs associated with buying the hardware, which was the suit that we needed. There were software costs, and then there was again this cost of hiring people because we needed a people. So in that case, I realized, okay, we needed a capital. But again, I haven't did that before of raising money and then spending and creating a budget and all that. So I was a hustler, like take money from here and give money there. So that was a very different experience for me. But what it taught me, if I look back, is most of the time you don't need a lot of money to start a business.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out two things, right? One is again in the startup world, it's called product market fit, which is basically there is a demand for what you're doing. So if anyone is starting a business, the first focus is, okay, just validate your idea as quickly as possible. Because what people do is that they spend a lot of time, a lot of money building things that nobody wants or cares about.
Or needs.
So
yep.
Needs, exactly. So again, if someone is starting a business, you don't need a lot of money, you just have to validate your idea. You have to find product market fit. As soon as you get product market fit, people would give you money, right? And again, I did not knew all those things at back then, but you need, and again, now I realize that you need money for two things. Basically, you need to figure out how to bring customers, right? You have to spend marketing, ads, customer acquisition strategies, a lot of the kind of things. And then you need money to people to work for you. A lot of talented people will not work for free. They might believe in you, they might believe in your vision, but at the end of the day, they have their need or they have better paying options. Again, initially, what I used to do, I used to motivate a lot of people to work for me, believe in me, what I was selling. But again, they need to get paid, right? So money, if you're starting a business and it's that sort of business where you require people, you would need money for that, which is basic salaries. And then the second is basically to acquire customers. That would you need. But again, there are always workarounds with that. There are ways you can acquire users. But that's also the hustle part of it. I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Fantastic.
So you said there were
response.
But what were the two things? You said there were two things: product market fit. What was the second thing?
Yeah. So the first. So again, when you're building things, you need building a product or a business. You need two things. One is ship fast, which means whatever you're doing, do it fast. So if you're building a product, software, website, product, do it fast. Don't think too much. A lot of people think a lot of time, on I want to beautify this, I want to do that, blah, blah. Let's launch it, even if it looks shit. Just launch it and validate your idea. That is like just fast and then talk to your customers. The people who are going to use your product, talk to them, because a lot of engineers or a lot of developers, they sort of think that they are the smartest people on earth. They'll write this code and people would start jumping in. No, that's not how it works. So these are two things that you need to focus on. Is whatever you're selling, doing, you need to do it fast. You need to talk to your customers and sort of validate your idea. Don't even spend a lot of time if you haven't found a product market fit. Product market fit means there is someone who's willing to pay for what you are selling. As soon as you have that, cool, you can go all in. Because even if you get the first paying customer, right? If someone is willing to pay you X dollars for what you're doing, you have a product market fit. All you have to do is scale it, as I did back in my agency. Once you have validated, there is demand. Yeah.
Well said. I love it, man. I love it.
Nailed it. Where are we at in the timeline now? Because I know we started, but I think you were starting to go into Web3 and
Web3,
maybe
crypto,
and maybe that transition of those three people that you met. You said you're going to go back to them. So start getting us into Web3, the impact those relationships have. You're really now saying, hey, I still want to make money, even though these people are really trying to solve problems and not too concerned about that.
One thing you guys will know that every human being is different. Everyone is motivated by a different thing, right? And I sort of found that strange initially. Because why he isn't interested in money? Because I realized his background or their background is completely different than their mind. They might have not seen the situation that I have seen, but again, they want to be successful. They want to contribute. They want to make for themselves, which took me a very long time to understand, right? If someone wasn't interested in money, I didn't even used to talk to them. Like, why aren't you interested in money? You don't have the same goal as me. Go away. But it takes a lot of patience and understanding that okay, they have a different background. They're a different human being. You don't have to be too hard to judge them.
Yeah.
Right. So again, we were at this place. We were figuring out what to do next. Although I have sort of figured out these small different ventures that could support me financially with just a couple of hours of my time, but it wasn't still that I was making through. And all the time I was in university, my mother did not know that I was doing all that kind of stuff. I think if I had explained her in detail, she would have stopped me that I was doing. I told her, yeah, my GPA is 4, blah blah. My GPA was very bad in university. So while we're having this discussion, Shehroz told me, Talha, there is something called NFTs. I was like, what is an NFT? Because again, although I was software engineer, I had zero clue what is what. And again, he kept on insisting. I was like, no, man, I'm not interested. Let's focus on what we have at hand. And I sometimes get too bossy, right? Because I need to get things done. That's my nature. I don't let people go here and there. Like if something is important, we have to do it. So I sort of boss them. But it's like Talha. So he wrote a script for one of someone online. Okay, someone contacted him to basically create 3D characters in Blender, like 10,000 3D characters in Blender. And that guy, the founder, was paying him 60 BD, which is like $100, $200 per render for 3D render. And Shehroz was like, I wouldn't do this manual work no matter how much you pay me. So Shehroz was like, give me some time. I will write for you a script that would automate the process, right? So now, basically, when you're creating an NFT collection, so I'm spoiling it. When you're creating an NFT collection, you have to create all. If it's a 3D NFT collection, you have these different traits, headgear, jackets, and all that kind of stuff, right? So what those guys were doing, they were manually creating it. So if you create 10,000 NFTs or characters manually, it takes a very long time. So what Shehroz did, my co-founder, he wrote a script where you could take 10 hats, 10 jackets, 10 pants, put in the script, and the script would generate 10,000 images. So again, he likes to automate stuff. And that founder was like, thank you so much. And he sort of gave Shehroz one NFT from his project. And then Shehroz was telling me that I did this work. I was like, okay, cool. But he sort of told one thing that stuck me. There's this, he showed me, like, there's this image of monkey. It's worth millions of dollars. And as soon as he said the word a million, he had my attention. Like, I had my ears like this. Okay, I was like, okay, why is it worth $1 million? It's like, people are buying these images. Like, cool, what's behind it? I could not understand why would someone buy an image for millions of dollars. Like it was Bored Ape Yacht Club. It was very difficult for me to digest. Like why would someone buy an image? And again, I went home and I was like, okay, let's look into it. I opened my laptop. I was sitting right here. I had my desk here, and I said, okay, what is a blockchain? Or I went ahead and said, and again, I went down the rabbit hole. For the next 3 months, I did nothing. I just kept on reading. So I started all the way back from the cypherpunk era in 1991. And then since people were trying to create these online digital currencies, all the way to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and like I read the entire past 30 years. And again, I sort of understood what problems lies out there. So that was again another sort of, like pivoting moment that this is too big to ignore. And this was back in 2021 when NFTs were picking boom. So before that, I had zero clue about crypto. All I had was in 2017, one of my friends. So there was this exchange called Rain that came to centralized exchange. And one of my friends told me to just create an account and I would get like $50. I was like, cool, I would create an account. I created an account, I put some money into Ethereum. I don't know what it was, but every day Ethereum was going up. And I was like very happy. I had invested in something. I had zero clue how it was working. But then in 2021, I sort of connected the dot. Okay, why this cryptocurrency is rising and all that kind of stuff. So I sort of had figured it out and I was, pumped up. I need to do something. And again, I was talking to my friends that I learned so much because once I'm interested, I learn a lot. I read a lot I watch a lot of videos. I sort of pick up a lot of different concepts, and then I go and explain other people in a very simplified way, so I understand it much better. So whenever we were hanging out, I was explaining, how blockchain works. What is an NFT? Like I used to explain them. So I became sort of obsessed with it, and I was like, okay. Knowledge is useless until applied. Let's do something. I was like, okay, what can we do with the knowledge that we have? So we were game developers. We knew how to build games. And we were sort of seeing play to earn games. Axie Infinity was at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll build this game called we'll build the best play to earn game ever possible. And sort of, it was like when I used to play a lot of games when FIFA, there was a game specific in FIFA, and my mother always used to tell me, "Why are you playing? You will not earn anything from my game." I was like, "We'll tell all the mothers in the world that you can earn from playing right now. So we'll build this game." Long story short, we built that game and 2 hours, and we launched an initial collection of 100 to 150 NFTs just to test it out, and it got sold out in like a matter of a few days. And again, we were not expecting to get a lot of traction. We had these NFTs, people started coming into our server. And again, it was an amazing experience, right? And I sort of got to and experience the Web3 culture. Like people were, again, it was very different culture. Like I haven't used Discord. I haven't used Twitter before. I was on these platforms talking to a lot of different people. Like it was amazing experience. Like we didn't used to sleep at night, right? We were focusing on building the project. So that was sort of our first venture into Web3 space. We met a lot of cool people. We made a lot of good connections. This was until November. So now we are, and we had one problem and one opportunity. Now the problem was that although we knew how to code, we had zero understanding of Web3. Not in a technical way of overall how the space works, right? We did, because again, people had these anonymous pictures, these anonymous names. It was too intimidating, right? I didn't know what to do. And we were trying to find developers who can basically help us figure out what to do, because writing a smart contract wasn't an easy job, right? It was very difficult because whenever you want to launch an NFT collection, you have to write a smart contract. And we could not find anyone. And even if we were able to find someone, they were not cooperative, or they were charging a lot. So the only solution for us was we had to learn ourselves. So I told my friend, guys, we have to learn everything ourselves. So we spent the next 2 months learning everything there is for the development of the blockchain side. So we were working on our product, right? But strangely, nobody was interested in the product. Everyone was interested in the skills that we had. And it was like, can you guys launch for us a smart contract? Can you guys build for me a D app? Can you guys launch for me a metaverse experience? And we were like, cool, if you're paying us, we'll do it. So our idea was that we'll use the income from these side projects and put it into a product and then grow that ultimate play to earn game. And at that time, I did not have a good understanding of tokenomics. And I realized that Axie Infinity is a big Ponzi scheme. It only keeps on working as long as more people keep coming into the game. So we sort of paused that product until we figure out how to build a sustainable play to earn game. So we just told that we'll do one project and we'll get back to the product, right? And again, life has its own experiences. We sort of signed with Bugatti Group. It's and just to correct you, Matt, Bugatti was not the car. It's the Canadian company that sells handbags.
My bad. You got me excited, man. My hopes and dreams dashed upon the rocks of reality. It happens.
And it happens with me. So one of my friends told me, so when Bugatti came, so Shehroz told me Bugatti wants us to create their smart contract. So Bugatti, the car, is like the Bugatti, the bag company. Although they're a really big deal as well. They're 82-year-old company based out of Canada. Amazing company. So we did the project for them.
But can we just time out real quick? Time out. What a class act. He let me say that, roll with it, be excited about it, and didn't just destroy my dreams right there. And I just want to say I appreciate that, because that's a character moment right there. So touche. Well done. Well done. Well done. Okay, so tell us about the Bugatti in Canada that you guys were working with.
Exactly. I need to give a shout to Ivan. His name is BG Badger. I told Mike about it. So he was sort of so I sort of skipped when we were working on our project. We sort of did everything possible just to get out there, right? We were on Twitter messaging people, on Discord messaging people. Again, the hustle. I told my friends, let's send 100 DMs. We had a box in our office, like tick 100 DMs, 100 DMs, 100 DMs. Just do that. Don't focus on the results, just focus on the execution. And luckily, we messaged one guy, his name was Ivan, and we had a call with him. And he sort of, his company was SARS and Funds, and they sort of partnered with us to help market the project. And that guy has been, again, a very big support in helping us. So we got this, he introduced us to Bugatti as developers, and we did. So again, we were working on for Bugatti, and then again, through word of mouth, right? A lot of people started coming to us. We did the draw for Bugatti. They got sold out. We built a smart contract, a DApp for them. They sold out all their NFT collection. And then just from there on, then so we registered this company called nalikesstudio as a company that solely focuses on providing development services to companies. And we told, okay, there's more traction here. And one thing I sort of told myself is, are you guys familiar with Gold Rush?
Gold Rush?
Gold Rush, the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, the
yeah,
Gold Rush, back in the day when there was a
yeah,
lot of
yeah.
gold. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
who made the most money in Gold Rush?
Guy selling the shovels.
Exactly. So I told my friends, this is another Gold Rush. Let's sell shovels. Instead of building our own products, let's help other people build their product. Not in a good way, we'll support them, but we sort of focus on what we are good at. So, and that kind of worked. It's been 1 year since we started this company, 2 years, but 1 year officially. And through word of mouth, we have done numerous projects, helped sell out multiple NFT collections, built a lot of different stuff. So initially, we were three guys working from our bedroom, doing smart contract development. But now we have grown to a team of 15 plus people, or serving clients in North America, Europe, Asia, GCC, and Asia. And yeah, it's an amazing ride. We're building every day. And yeah,
Dude.
initially it was just us three doing a lot of stuff, but now we have a team of people doing. So I'm trying to go out there and get myself known out there and provide value to people as well. So that's where I'm right now.
Dude,
I
that
love
is a beautiful, lovely story, and there's so much to unpack there. I want to start back in the beginning, and we can start very basic. You have a ton of experience now in the Web3 knowledge, just from even starting a project to working with people to developing. Someone getting in this space today, knowing that this ecosystem is different than what was. What would you advise them to do? Should it be go on Twitter? Should it be go down the rabbit hole on YouTube? Like, they're interested, they're starting to understand the potential of what NFTs and blockchain can do. What would you tell them to do?
I get asked this question a lot. So what I do is I do different seminars and public speaking events in Bahrain about Web3, and every time I get asked this question, I don't have a true answer because, again, as I said, everyone has their own path. But if I were to advise someone, it's basically you have to be curious and you have to be willing to unlearn and learn. These are the two things that are very important. Because if you're just in it for, okay, because again, money was something that got me into this space, but it
Mhm.
was not about it, right? It was the technology itself. And there were many different examples that changed my mind. So one example, I'm not sure if you guys know about this, but sending remittance, right? So now if I have to send money back to my family in Pakistan, I have to go through these middlemen, right? I have to go to this exchange, then that exchange take a cut, then it goes to a bank, they take a cut, and then three, four people, and then it reaches to them like 2, 3 days, right? And then if I have to send money someone in Philippines or that part of the world, it would take days. But when I realized that it can be done instantly with crypto, I was like, cool, that would solve a lot of problems, right? Because we don't have to rely on these intermediaries.
Mhm.
Then there was this concept of ownership. So again, in our countries, right, and there still exists. So let's say if you buy a home, so there are various stories like people spend 20 years, 30 years buying a home, right, in a village or someplace, and a powerful guy comes and takes the ownership of the home from them, and they can do nothing because the ownership is written on a piece of paper, which is stored in a clerk's office, which just have one copy. When I thought that if you put a deed of ownership on blockchain, no one can do that because people spend their lives building assets and someone can take it easily. And this happens in our countries. Like, I'm not sure if there's a problem in that part of the world, but in this part of the world, it's very common. A powerful guy can come and take land without even paying you anything. So and then looking at inflation and countries like Zimbabwe and Venezuela where people are struggling. So that told me that this technology, again, it's too big to ignore. When people understand and when it starts getting adopted, it would change the world. So that was something that got me hooked, right? So going back to why people should come is, again, know that although there is money to be made, right? And money is to be made in anything in the world. One of my uncle told me that Talha, the richest man in Turkey, he sells garbage or he collects garbage. So money can be made in any industry. But if you get into this space, know that we are at a pivoting stage where the foundation of the internet is being changed. I can explain Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. The foundation of the internet is being changed, and a lot of companies will be built in this couple of years, which would be the next Facebook, Amazon, Google, and so on. So once you come here, you have to be curious, you have to be very interested, you have to know why you're here and understand the technology. So a lot of time would be spent on education, because again, without education, you wouldn't know where to go.
Yeah.
And then figure out what you're good at, what your strengths are, and then see where you can fit. Like, so if you're coming from a development perspective, okay, you can go into development role. If you're coming from sort of a marketing perspective, then there's a lot of cool roles, which are collab managers, moderators, Twitter space hosts, and all kind of stuff. So there's everything for everyone. It all depends what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah. Dude, I love that answer. Go ahead, Manny.
So a follow-up question to that, because you said education is key. How do you stay up to date with all things Web3, crypto, blockchain? I think that's a fascinating question. You know, obviously this is something you guys specialize in. How do you keep up to date?
So one thing that people do is that once they graduate from university, they're like, okay, I'm done from education. I have everything I need for the next 30, 40 years. And there's no concept of learning, right? Just apart from Web3, every individual should dedicate at least 30 minutes a day to learning something new. That's very important, right? And that could be anything. How do I stay up to date, or how do I learn, or how people can learn is there are a lot of good resources out there on YouTube. If you just search Web3, there's something called Whiteboard Crypto, there's Max Maher, there's a lot of cool guys creating content. I just consume all of them, right? And then from reading, I read A16Z a lot. I read a lot of white papers. Initially, this was something that I used to do. I used to read everything I could find. But now what I do is that I sort of hired a person, one of my team content guy. He sort of filters for me. I've given them input. Okay, I need to read this. Just get me this news for me, or summarize it for me, so I can, stay up to date, because I don't have that much time right now. So yeah, there are a lot of good resources out there, a lot of Twitter pages out there. Like, what they do is that they explain difficult concept in a thread. So there's so much out there. And again, once you start seeking, you will find it. And again, he who has the thirst for it, he will eventually find for it. Because again, if you want everything for you to be served on a plate, you won't get it. If you seek, you'll get it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think one of the things that just sparked in my mind, Maddie, and we should think about this is making sure we ask this question for every guest, and start building a kind of repository of top influencers and thought thinkers from the people that are actually building things, because that's a way better curated list than anybody else can get. So we'll hit you up after that with your top 5 to 10 things that you go to. I think that could be interesting. One of the things that sparked in my mind is you've seen so much, and I'm really interested in your failures, and I'm really interested in the failures you've had over the last year to two, specifically in crypto, and what did they come in a form of, and what have you learned from that?
I've made a lot of mistakes. So one of the profound one is, and I sort of regret it, is that initially when I got into the space, I did not have a very deep understanding. So I came across Terra Luna, the Anchor protocol. Are you guys familiar with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Terra Luna was a cryptocurrency. Yeah.
It's the one that went upside down, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this was this, and I was very new, and I was pumped, excited about this cryptocurrency, right? And I put a lot of my personal savings or the income that I've earned into this application called Anchor Protocol, which was basically offering 19% APY. Who wouldn't put money into that application? And I put my money, and I sort of got all my friends to put their money in it. I was like, trust me, man, this is a stable coin. And I did enough research, right? And I was like, cool, because I was seeing my numbers go up every day for the past 30, 40 days. And I was like, cool, let's put it. And then I went on to a podcast and I told about it. You should look into it. Although I said no financial advice, and again, I would say not financial advice, what I would say. And then a few days later, it crashed. All of the money that I put into it went to zero, right? So that was a very big lesson for me, that never FOMO into any project. FOMO means fear of missing out, or put your hard-earned money or the money that you're not willing to lose into anything. And again, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I did that again in a different project. Because back in the day, there were these protocols that were offering crazy APYs. Like, okay, I put $10, next day I have $100. And I couldn't resist to put money. So I wasted a lot of money. I wasted a lot of my hard-earned money in that way, but I learned a lot. I sort of figured out, okay, what I need to read a smart contract. I need to look into a team members. I need to see what they're doing, right? Because initially there was so much out there, a lot of it, and I bought a lot of NFTs that went all to zero. So that was like one of my failures, is that when you're new to the space and you're seeing a lot going on, don't get intimidated or FOMO into it. It's like, it's fine. Do it at your own pace. Yeah, because it hurts, right? Because what happens, if you get into the space, you lose your money, you will go away because you will not understand the actual reason why the space exists or the technology that exists. So that was one of the failures that gave me a very good lesson. And I advise everyone is that please don't put any money into anything until you understand what's going on, or you're not willing to lose that money. So that was a very good
Right.
experience for me.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I think,
Dude,
go ahead, Matty.
I just would say thank you for the honesty. There are too many people that come off in this space. Mikey knows that like they have it all figured out, man. And here's the real truth. All of us have lost a ton of money in this. We're still here, which means there's something we believe in and there's more to it. But the bottom line is, yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know what hurts more. The opportunities I jumped at that I just blew money on, or the ones that I told Mike we shouldn't jump on that just would have made us a bunch of money. I'm not sure what hurts more, but we have those lessons.
Which projects was that?
I mean, we've had
Because
founders.
Dude.
Had founders of projects on this show that have lost us a ton of money. One being Dex and Phantom Network. They were very hyped up, and we might have bought it at way too much money, and it's not a lot now.
Your boy lost a lot of cash.
So much praise, so much praise.
On the flip side, though, Mikey told me about NFTs, and he told me about VeeFriends. He's like, "Oh, Gary Vee's talking about this stuff," and I'm like, "I've listened to him already, but really?" And he said, I asked him. I distinctly remember this. I was downstairs, and I was like, "I don't care what it is. Just tell me how much money do we have to put into it?" And he said, "Maybe $300." And for whatever reason, here's the thing. I would have spent $300 on a microphone. I would have spent $300 on a PlayStation or whatever. But he said $300. I was like, that's ridiculous. I'm not giving $300 to some, whatever. Of course, VeeFriends blows up. And then that's the start of everything that went nuts. And it just...
That $300 could have turned into 20 ETH at $4,000 an ETH. I'm just saying, bro.
I know.
But it doesn't matter because
we're with you. We feel your pain.
Some
but
free
thank you for being honest.
Being a hate beast mod, and that really did change. Listen, I think you said something very interesting, but I'm interested. But I'm also interested in this along the lines of mistakes made in education. Now and are a lot more educated. Now, you can take any angle you want, whether it is working with web3 companies and founders and projects, or for somebody that's interested in investing in crypto or an NFT project. Give me the top 3 things that you think about. We know the research and education part is it, but when you think about research and education, what is it? Is it the founders? Are you looking at the website? What are the things that you think about when you're doing that vetting?
Definitely. So I think very differently right now. I don't put my money into anything right now. I'm very skeptic. But if I were to put in something, I would see the founder, right? Because again, when anyone invests in a startup or in any company, they bet on the founder. They bet on the person running the company. So when I go to raise money for my company right now, they say that Talha will invest in you. We don't care about your idea, because it might happen that the idea might pivot, the market might change. We invest you, the person. So if I were to invest in anything, I would see who is running it, right? The founder. Because at the end of the day, if again going back to my Jemba, the leadership. So I will look at the founder. Who is he? Is he credible? I will listen to him talk. And once I have listened to him talk, I will understand what his personality is. Because when people are speaking, they're giving clues or hints about their personality or their ideologies or their visions. So that was the first thing I would do, is basically I would just figure out who the founder is or who's the team behind it, or who's backing them, right? Most of the projects have big VC funded companies back then. That's sort of a green flag, because they will not run out of money or they won't go anywhere. Again, don't take anything I'm saying. It's with a grain of salt. Do your own research. But that is the first thing I would look at. Second is I would look, okay, what problem are they trying to solve? Because when I got into Web3, and I did not have a good understanding, I was like, "Hey, NFTs are something different." But now I realize it's just a technology, right, with which people are trying to solve problems. In any startup or any business, and everyone is trying to solve a problem. So the second thing I would look at, what problem are they trying to solve, right? And most of the time, no one is trying to solve a problem. They are trying to raise funds to build a game. They were trying to raise funds to build a website or whatever, right? No one is trying to solve a problem. So if they are trying to solve a problem, I'll give you an example. Crypto project called Flux, researching about it, and they are trying to solve a really big problem. So in its simplest word, they are trying to become the AWS of blockchain. So right now, if you're building any application, there has to be a backend which is on AWS, but they are doing the AWS of blockchain. Now this project makes sense, right? And again, the founders. So that is the second thing I would see. Okay, what problem are they trying to solve? What and how big is that problem, right? Actually, because in Ethereum case is simple, right? They're trying to build a global computer where applications can be run, and then all the EVM compatible chains, Polygon, Phantom, and blah blah, are competitors of Ethereum. They're trying to do it slightly differently, but they're not doing anything. And then there comes these different blockchains like Near. They have a different technology and all that kind of stuff. So again, the second thing would be what problem they're trying to solve. And the second is basic. Then I see the track record. Okay, the founders of the team, what they have done, right? And then I don't go all in or put all my eggs in one basket. I put like one feet in the water. I test it out a little bit, and then I take it. So that's what I would do if I was going to look into any project here.
I love it, man. I love
Great
it.
answer.
Yeah, it's a great answer, and we will be clipping that as well. So, Maddie, you got any thoughts here as we progress on? I mean, we're almost at an hour and a half already, and I know it is 3 a.m. in the morning. I think we could talk for the next 6 hours, but I already know we're going to be friends for life, so I feel very good about this.
So the last thing is, I just want you to expand on this point because you said it. I think it's really powerful, right? Is as you guys were doing this and you were working towards the play to earn game, a couple things happened. One, you recognized that Axie Infinity wasn't a sustainable model and you were willing to shelve it. I think that's a big green flag. But two, you recognize that, like, wait a second, a bunch of people were asking us to do all of this stuff. And to make that switch to say, let's sell the shovels instead of go after the gold, I think is really, really big. And it's obviously worked off because you started with 3, now you have 15 plus, and you're growing, you're delegating, you got people, doing stuff. So if you're helping somebody kind of navigate these waters, because you said knowledge is useless unless you apply it. What are you applying now that you've learned these things about, wait a second, I'm going to sell shovels. There's a back end here that needs to be fulfilled. How would you apply it? Or how would you tell others to apply it, maybe?
Definitely. So going back to the problem that we face is that in this space, there were not enough good developers, right? They were skilled people, they were really smart people, but what they were lacking was that if you talk to a developer or someone, they don't have good communication skills, right? Or they are too egoistic. I'm not saying for all, but the experiences that we had. And normally when they work for a client, the client does not have a good experience, right? In our case, we sort of had this unique combination of developers and guy who knows how to communicate, with which we were able to sort of provide a really good customer experience, right? And once someone worked with us, they were like, okay, we haven't worked with developers such as yourself. Because again, what we were doing is that we were doing some not very different stuff. We were doing what other programmers do, but the way we were doing it, the way we were treating customers, right? We keep them on our head. We go over and beyond for them. I think that is first thing, is that you have to be providing value or the customer service that we did. And now what we do is helping customers is that most of the time when founders come to us and we sort of listen to them speak 1 hour or half an hour, we sort of figure out that this isn't going to work, right? And then we advise them. Not that we are geniuses or somewhat, it's because that we have had experiences that if you go and launch a PFP collection right now without any clue, it will not work, right? So in that case, we tell them, okay, we would just provide you the development support as far as technicality, but the execution of the project, that's something on you, or you have to go hire a marketing company or a consulting company. That's one thing, right? When it's a normal traditional NFT project, we be very upfront that we would just focus on the tech side of the things, and we were not responsible for the marketing or the execution or making sure the NFTs sell out. Because tech is one side of the things.
Mhm.
Because we take complete ownership of the tech, nothing would go wrong there. But that is just one part of the equation, right? There are a lot of things that come into play. Because again, when you launch a product, right, no matter how good the product is, you have to market it, right? The same with the Web3 space. If you're launching a project, it's not just you build a good product, you have to market it as well. So what we do is that most of the time the companies do it themselves, or they do it with one of the marketing companies. But when someone comes to it who's actually trying to solve a problem, then we go hands, all in, where we advise them. We sort of enjoy the process of building, right? So we take it becomes like our project. So the projects that we work with, we become sort of their seed. We're not just like the developers that you have contracted. It's like you have sort of given this project. We don't just do it for the sake of doing it. We sort of do it, okay, to make sure it works for you guys, right? And we advise, because when you hire a developer, you're telling them what to do. But when you hire us, we tell you what to do, and not that we are your boss or something, because we tell you what would work best for your project. So we worked with this project recently called XNFT, and we sort of helped them integrate AI chatbots into their project, and it went really well because they were Web3 project. What they have to do with AI? But we told them that in your project you have the concepts of legendary commanders, Napoleon, and all the kind of stuff. What if we just give them a voice with ChatGPT, and that worked for them and sort of brought traction for their project. So again, just to summarize, is that we have this vast experience of knowledge of the technical skills, and we try to provide value. But again, it's at the end of the day, it's up to the founders or the people leading the project, the execution, how it works or not. Because we have experiences where the projects failed, right? The tech was cool, but the project failed. But we had experiences where we just did tech and the projects did well, and countless examples. Recently, we worked with Hoopas, which was on Solana, and they sold out 2 weeks back. So yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So I want to distill what you said down to some kind of maybe a manageable, digestible thing here. What I hear you saying is that the tech side of this, right? There's a lot of expertise, and for most of the time, it was like going to hire an interior designer, but then telling them how to do it, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of hiring an interior designer. Hey, make my house awesome, but here's what I want, this, and this. And what you guys did is just flip the dynamic and actually put it the right way, which is I'm hiring an interior designer because I don't know how this house should look. And then you guys actually advise and say, this is what you need to do to create the environment you're trying to go for. Is that kind of distilling it down correctly?
Exactly. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we are working with an NFT drop, right, which is expecting a lot of people to come to their website. Now they would say, do it on this platform, do it in this way. Like we're like, no, because we would want to do it on AWS, right? Because if 10,000 people come to your site and if it's not optimized or scalable, it would crash and you would lose your customers. So in that case, we tell them, okay, what to do. So you summarize it perfectly. Let us do our job. Let the expert do it.
I love it. That's good. And I would just say the marketing side of that is making sure people understand that's why you're doing what you're doing, because they're more likely to get the result they want if they listen to your consult, what you're advising them to do. So that's good.
Exactly. Yeah. Marketing is something that's not our forte, and I try to stay away from it. But I do have a lot of good friends, so I refer them mostly there. Because again, that's a lot another field with different expertise. Right. It's not just doing free few promos on Twitter, few shilling here and there. No, it's you have to have a complete strategy for that as well.
Yeah,
you do. Well, you got another friend in marketing, Mikey G.
You have to have a ton of contacts as well. It amazes to me how much is just done through DMs and Discord. But if you don't know the right people, it's a waste of time. It's unfortunate, but again, just like anything else, there's even this space, especially now, there's a very small amount of people that control a lot of that movement.
Exactly.
They were saying, what was the guy saying on Tuesday? He was like, if you looked at all Blur farming, which is crazy highs, there's like, you can account for like 50 wallets account for 80% of the total volume on Blur. Like, that's insane to think about how small it's gotten and how these whales are. I mean, it was a huge deal when what's his name, Franklin, like basically bailed out a Bored Ape. You know, that guy had a ton of shit, and you start to realize actually just how small it is. Um,
Mhm.
Let me ask you this. I think you would be an interesting person to ask this. Let's say maybe the next 2, even go out 5 years if you want. What do you how do you see crypto, Web3, NFTs changing? Like, what does the future look like to you? And what do you think people will care about? Because I'm talking about the bigger trends as well. I could care less about Bitcoin summer or whatever bullshit that someone's trying to talk about, right? Or shit coins. Like, really, what is the space looking like, evolution in your mind?
Exactly. So I was about to say the same thing before you even asked the question. So there's this founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, gives a very beautiful examples, and that can answer your question. So you guys have this bridge, Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So so that bridge was built. It took a lot of time, a lot of engineers to build that bridge. And now when you're on that bridge in your car, right? And just to give you more context, back in the day, bridges were not reliable, right? Most bridges failed because the way the architects built it or the construction built it was not too good. But this specific bridge was built in such a way that it was a lot of time was invested, a lot of smart people worked on it. So now when today you sit in your car and you're driving on the bridge, all you have the thought in your mind is what you are going to do when you get to the other side of the bridge. You're not thinking that this bridge is going to fall, right? So my point is basically, which is that example, is that no one cares about the technology most of the time. All the people care about is the use or the problem that that particular technology is solving. So in case of the bridge, the problem is that going from one place to another, but that bridge is solving that problem. So in my opinion, and what most of people are working right now, and we're in the initial stages, is this blockchain technology was sort of become underneath, right? People are highlighting it too much. What needs to be done and what is being done right now is products need to be built. Right now, if you're using WhatsApp, right, and you send Mike a message, hi, you don't care about what programming language is being used, what servers are being used, or whatever technology is being used. All you care about is your messaging being sent from one place to another. Now, the challenge with crypto right now is that it's in initial stages, and we don't have those products like WhatsApp, Google, Facebook, and so on. So in the coming years, which people are working, we'll have these products that are so simple to use, but underneath we have all this fascinating technologies, financial transaction happening to crypto, ownership happening to NFTs, and all that kind of stuff. But we would not know what we are using in a sense that it would be too easy to use. So in the coming years, these sort of products will be used. So I'll give you an example. ChatGPT, right? The AI learning model. This has existed for like 5-6 years, right? Anyone could have built a ChatGPT for you. But what OpenAI did was sort of build a simple interface that anyone can come and use, and it had like a viral moment, right? So the same thing with crypto or blockchain technology. We'll have a ChatGPT moment in the coming years where everyone and their grandmothers will be using it, but they don't know what they're doing. So I'll give an example. So when ChatGPT came out, I'm based in Bahrain, and they sort of banned it or blocked it. So I had to use VPN to access this one. So it was a struggle for me. So, and I saw that other people in my friend circle and my family, they were not willing to download a VPN and do this. So I told my friends, let's build a WhatsApp bot which is connected to ChatGPT, and people can just text someone on WhatsApp and they can start using ChatGPT. We built that, and I gave it to my mother. My mother started using it, and she enjoyed it. Right? She was like searching for recipes. She was searching for correcting her grammar, all that kind of stuff. And I was sitting there and thinking, okay, wow, she's using AI without her knowing she's using AI. And we are at that stage. So again, with crypto and blockchain, people would use it at some point, right? In the coming years, without knowing them, they were using it. So what we are working towards is these products or problem being solved with this technology that would sort of give us the next stage. That's what I think. Yeah.
I love it, man. That was a very, very well thought, put together answer. You even used an analogy. Matt's a sucker for analogies. Let me tell you that right now. Um, I think in your mind, and again, this is do your own research, not financial advice. What companies or people do you think really are going to help push it to that phase? Is it are we just still handcuffed to a Facebook or a Google, or is there somebody small in the space like we've had a Fusion XYZ that's doing some really interesting stuff with Shuttle Bay and education and trying to change the way marketing works and blockchain. Do you think it's going to be one of those smaller companies? Or Candy Digital was just on, and they've done a really good job of, use your email, sign up for a website. You don't have to have a crypto wallet, and you can instantly transact, and all you're seeing is, hey, I got a digital pack of cards, right? I'm assuming it's those type of companies, and if so, any on your radar?
That's a very interesting question, because okay, back in the day, the whole concept of decentralization of Web3 is that there should not be one giant company, right? Like Facebook, Google, Amazon.
Yeah.
So we're going to away from it. So what we are aiming for is a lot of different smaller successful companies. That's the first thing. Second is, it's very hard to tell, right? There might be some companies who are building and stuff, no one knows about it, and they would just rise up. But what would happen is, one thing is for sure, that the companies selling block space, when I say block space, it's like mostly the layer ones that are performing transactions, they would be very big, right? Because again, if mass adoption is to come, which means that applications would be built on top of blockchains. So one thing is for sure, that companies providing block space, and A16Z, the crypto fund, talks about a lot, that the next billion-dollar companies or trillion-dollar companies are being built by, they're selling block space, which means that the blockchains on which people are building applications. So that's the first thing. And I personally think, and I can be wrong, is that some companies like Near, they're doing really good stuff because again, they're well backed, and then they have them. And then these are the blockchains. Yeah, so that's the first type of companies that will succeed. And then the second is basically someone who will figure out the creator economy. So right now, if you have a YouTube channel and you have an audience and you have monetization turned on, a lot of ad revenue would just go to YouTube, even though you are the one getting all that revenue from it. Right? Because now we have these central institutions. How it works, that let's say I want to run ad for my iPhone, I would pay YouTube $10, show it to people on Mike's page, and then those people would come, they would see, and then YouTube would pay you $1 or a percent of it. Right? Although you deserve all the money because you are the one, so the advertiser should pay directly to you. But right now we don't have any platform. And again, same with Instagram, same with YouTube, all these social media platforms, is that the creators are creating content, right? And there's no way for them to earn. Even on Spotify, if you have like 1,000 streams, you might get a $1. There's a series called Spotify. You should watch that. It's a really great series.
Which one?
Which talks about, it's called Spotify. It talks about how Spotify came into being. So before there were these pirated musics, and then Spotify came and solved the problem. And the intention was good, but now what Spotify is doing is basically, they're really talented people who are struggling to make ends meet, right? And then what they have to do is they have to leave their craft, and then they have to go other stuff, but they're not able to support themselves financially. So the second big winner is someone who will figure this out, an application or social application or creator economy, where we won't have these central authorities taking a bunch of the money, where all of them could be done through a smart contract or code, and then the money would go to the creators, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be the biggest winners. And I personally, me and my friends are sort of trying to figure that out, how to do that.
Dude, I love that you bring that up. We had a CEO of a company called Schiller. He's doing exactly that, a mobile app that lets you live stream. You get 100% of the revenue, and then it adds Web3 token gating allowances and sophistication into that streaming platform app. And it's a massive opportunity, and it's gonna be cool to see. Maddie.
So a couple things, right? I do like analogies, so I'm going to use your analogy of the Golden Gate Bridge. Yes, Web3 and decentralization, the idea is for not getting away from one centralized company. However, fun fact about that bridge is, at the time of its construction, the cost was so overwhelming, most people couldn't stomach it. Most people voted against it. They didn't want it because they were saying, why would we build something that's supposed to last 100 years, 150 years? That was wild, right? And most smaller areas that needed a bridge simply couldn't create enough money or tax enough money to build it. San Francisco being what it was and such a hub center, there was a lot of wealth there. They were able to do that and really essentially take that on the nose when most people said, this is stupid, you're wasting your time. That took somebody willing to kind of step up and take the shots for everybody else. Do you know what I mean? And in that scenario, those engineers, that was a massive risk to put all their, I mean, they really did put all their money into that. And now we can look back and it's like, of course, that's like the standard for how we do bridges, right? And like to your point, we don't even think about it anymore. We don't even know the story of how hard it was to get that bridge to be built. To move that into Web3, is there maybe a case to be made that we do need an Apple or a Google or a Facebook? I'm not saying I want this, by the way, but like somebody big enough to say, you know what, I will get in front of this and take the initial, because they're going to lose money, right? They're just going to lose a bunch of money. But basically they can change a paradigm, right? And I don't know, is that like an Elon Musk that basically just doesn't care? It's like, sure, I'll do it, or is, who's going to do that? I'm very interesting to see how that plays out, because I'm not convinced a bunch of small companies can do it. If that makes sense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. That's a very interesting thought. I haven't thought about it, but yeah, that would help if one company can come and take sort of like, we will be the first one to test it out. Yeah. And I think there are companies like Polygon. They're doing a lot of good stuff. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest issues is I can use two movie references for this. Have you seen Gladiator? Okay, and have you seen Ready Player One? Right. Yeah. In both of these movies, at the end, basically one person was given a whole bunch of power, and the fear was they wouldn't relinquish it. Right. And so, I think we have to hope that whoever does whatever big entity says we'll do this, it only works the way we all want it to work if once they do it, they still relinquish that control back to all of us, right? And that takes a certain type of individual, because most are going to want to go Commodus or go, what was it, IOI, where it was, they want to corporatize it and own it, and they want to just become another YouTube that just simply gives you pennies, even though you make the content. You know what I mean? So I think it's going to be an interesting battle to take place to see how that works out. We have to sell a dream, and then we have to have somebody kind of like lead the charge that's willing to do that.
And
fascinating talk, man.
I think we might have our answer within a very short amount of time, which is if Amazon promotes their NFT marketplace on Prime Day in a short couple weeks, things could change very quickly, because they have access to hundreds of millions of wallets immediately, and they're not, I'm assuming if you have a Prime account, you're going to be able to get an NFT, and it's going to be a lot more frictionless than what we know of an NFT today. So it's going to be, there will be impacts made that way, So it's going to be
and
wild.
They'll do it in a way that, to everybody's point here, they'll do it in a way that nobody knows it's even an NFT or blockchain, or they won't know. You know what I mean? It'll just be, it's just Amazon, but they're actually doing it. And then people will be like, oh yeah, it's a genius idea, even though we laughed at it for the first 10 years.
Yeah.
That's good stuff, man. Mike, do you have any other questions? I have one more question I wanted to ask, but I didn't know if you had anything.
I'm good, other than talking about what's in store for Talha in the future, but go ahead.
One last question, because you're an avid reader. You said you talk to your customers, okay? And what sparked in my mind is I was at a conference 2 weekends ago, and I got to meet the author of this book. I don't know if you've seen it, The Ultimate Question. This guy, Fred, really, really smart dude. I was not prepared for him to be as smart as he was. Because I've heard thousands of authors at this point. I'm like, what's this guy really going to say? It just sounds like another book he's trying to promote. He didn't even promote his book once, not even once. He just talked. And the data he was throwing out, and ultimately what it came down to was he was fascinated by what metric, what data point you can use. If you were to refine it down to one thing, What is the data point that lets you know if your business is working and not going to work, and if it's thriving or not thriving? And it boiled down to this book. What the ultimate question is, which is this. He is the one that created this whole phenomenon of asking customers via a survey one question: are you likely to recommend our service, product, etc. to a friend? Because all the psychology came down to, if Mike is willing to tell me, Matt, you should spend money on this, unsolicited, by the way. Like if he says, Matt, I should get Amazon Prime, Amazon doesn't pay him for that. Amazon didn't even tell him to do that. Mike, on his own free will, is doing Amazon's job better than they ever can by giving me essentially an unsolicited referral, right? And so he built this whole process around this. By the way, fun fact, you'll find this interesting, Mike. He then created an index fund on companies that scored high. He created a rating scale on how well companies do that one thing. He then created an index on high performers there, and flew to the conference that I heard him at on his private jet on the earnings that index has produced on the stock market. So it is
why
a
are we
real
not investing in this index, dog?
Bro, it's wild. And by the way, you know how the back of the book, they always have some famous people? Let me know if these are familiar. Let's see here. CEO Apple, CEO Philips, CEO American Express, CEO eBay, CEO Alliance, CEO Vanguard Group, and Stephen Covey, who wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's who's on the back of the book. So anyway, little plug there. But my question to you is, how are you talking to your customers? Because I'm all jazzed because of this book. And I love that you said that, because, people aren't listening to the end user. What are you doing? How are you implementing it with this program or with this project?
Company.
Thank you for the
company.
Thank you, Mike. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for the recommendation. I'll definitely read this book, and I'll look into this index fund as well, because I do invest in stock market.
There you go.
What I do is that, so when you are in sales, or when you're selling something, or when you are in a customer facing role, you sort of become a doctor, where you are trying to figure out what problems do your customers have. Again, and as I said, the personality of me being is listening a lot, right? So one thing is that, again, in discovery calls, in sales call or whatever, I'm listening a lot, right? And one thing is that once they have done our services, I constantly ask for feedback, because in every case, what we're doing, we're providing a service, right? And what are the main thing is that what we promised should be delivered on time, should be delivered, the quality they expect, and there should be no extra cost associated with it. And they should have visibility and transparency of what is being done. Because our client is sitting in America, we are sitting in, we have to trust them sitting on the different side of the world, right? Mm-hmm. So there has to be trust. So what I do is that after every delivery or everything, I ask them, okay, what is the feedback, right? And that feedback is really helpful. One of the feedback was basically, you guys don't have a project management of strategies. Like, you guys build a really good product, but I had zero visibility of what was being done. Cool. Why haven't I thought about it? So I sort of went ahead, created a Trello board, gave it access, because we had the process internally, right? Where we were, because again, we are putting work every day, but the client does not know, and he gets ideas, okay, maybe these guys are working or sitting on a beach or somewhere. So we sort of had these tools implemented or methods implemented so they can have transparency. The second was, okay, we're telling them, okay, where did we went? So they sort of, okay, you guys sort of, again, are from a different part of the world. Your English or your communication is not that good. And sometimes what we say, you guys don't understand. Cool, we accept that, and we're willing to improve. So I told all of my co-founders, let's take this course. So we improve our English, which I'm not sure if you guys, what would you say about my English? So we started improving that. Because again,
yeah, it's good English.
Yeah, because it's not our first language, right? So that's what we were doing. We're trying to improve our English, because that was the feedback. If we hadn't asked our customers what we were going for wrong, we didn't do. So write it down, and then we discuss on it. And the one thing is that you have to be very humble, and you have to put ego out of the way. I read this book called Ego is the Enemy. And again, when once you get to a certain stage, right, you think you are the shit, right? Like, no one can tell me what to do, right?
Right.
But no, I tell my co-founders, no, regardless of when we become millionaires, we need to have this attitude, okay, we can be wrong. Other person might know something which we might know. Even though they're not technical, they might know something which we don't know. So we have, so that's what we do. We just go with a very humble attitude. Okay, guys, if we did something wrong, please. We're not interested in praise because that's everything that we are interested in criticism or the points that they do out, right? That's what we're interested in.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
In our case, yeah.
No, it's good. That's good. In fact, actually, there's a little part of the book there where his daughter, because he's really adamant about only one question, right? And she finally said, "I know you're going to hate me, Dad, but I asked a second question, and her second question is, what can we do better?" Right? And so to your point, when you say, "What are we doing wrong?" Which even then, sometimes people will say, "Well, you're doing everything right." They don't want to tell you you're doing something wrong, but when you phrase it and say, "What can we do better? What can we do more of?" Right? Suddenly it'll pull something out of them. They'll be like, "Oh, well, I mean, because nobody's perfect, right?" And it's just interesting the stuff you got. And I love that, man. You're asking the right questions and you're listening to it. And that's massive. That is a massive, massive point. I wish a lot more entrepreneurs understood that.
Dude,
good stuff.
This has been an amazing conversation. We're at 2 hours already, believe it or not. You are crushing it at 4 a.m. in the morning. I want to do this. I want to start winding down, but to do that, we have one more question. We lied to you. White lie, it's going to be easy. It's not, this is the only other scripted question. But before that, I'd love to give you a chance to, I think, two things I would like to have so we can cut this for you and make some good content. One is, in a minute or less, 2 minutes max, what does your company do? And why should people be interested in what you do? So let's start with that, kind of in essence, an elevator pitch. We'd love to hear that.
So when an entrepreneur or a founder or a business want to build anything in this space, they have to go through a lot of challenges, right? Which is basically a lot of money has to be spent, a lot of education has to be done. And then when they finally take action or start the initiative, they don't know whether they'll succeed or not. So what we do is that we sort of solve all these three problems. Is that once someone has come up with an idea to build in this specific space, a software product, we sort of help them design, launch, and even scale it, right? So initially we design, basically we help them, okay, what product needs to be built and what problem you're solving. And then we help them launch to make sure we develop it. And then we help them scale as well, because launching is one thing, but getting it to a product market fit, which is the word I'm obsessed with, is we make sure that the product that our customers create work. Because when our customers succeed, we succeed. So that's what our company is. We are a software development studio working with founders and businesses, helping them design, launch, and scale their applications, their decentralized apps, and Web3 projects.
Dude, nailed it. Very concise, thoughtful, even though you were put on the spot. I appreciate that. So then, follow-up question before our last canned question is 6 to 12 months. What does life look like for Talha and your company?
Yeah. So right now we are providing services, right? But services are not scalable in a sense that if I want to serve 100 different customers, I have to hire 50 different employees. So us as an agency, we have a certain threshold that we want to reach, right? With a certain limited number of projects we want to work with. We want to work with quality project over quantity. So that's why we are sort of change our pricing model as well, so we can focus on quality. So that's for the agency part of the thing, where we want to keep working with projects, because in our case, it's not like when clients work with us, it's not this one-time thing. It's once they work with us, they continue forever because of the value that we provide. So all the projects that you see is 7 months, 6 months, 8 months. So we want to make sure that the existing client we have, and we value and are grateful for each and every one of them, we want to make sure we keep providing them with value. And second, internally, we are building products, as I mentioned about, in this overall tech space. And the ultimate goal for me is to take this company at a stage where it's worth something and I can sell that company. And then I can sort of have my financial freedom, and then I can start focusing on my wife.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's beautiful.
Love it.
So last question is very simple. We like, and this is what we were talking about, feedback, comments. You've probably seen, been in, listened to 100 Twitter spaces, been in your own interviews, seen other podcasts and stuff within this space. Would love feedback, comments, thoughts about how you think tonight went, on midlife crisis compared to other things you have witnessed or experienced?
You're putting me on spot again. Um, right. So one thing that I've learned in my life is that every human being care about themselves, right? That's the fact. Even though they're interested or they are at the back of the head, they're always thinking about what they are going to do for themselves personally. So which makes me think in sales or in any conversation is make it about the other person, right? Don't make it all about yourself. And one thing I liked about you guys is basically you sort of every time, okay, you told me, tell me how can this help our audience? How can this help our audience? And I sort of like that because you guys want to make sure that the people that are watching us get value out of it. So that was the one thing. And in most of the interviews, the other person is like, okay, just I get content for my channel and I get what I learn. But for you guys, it was like make sure our audience is getting value out of it. So that was a really good thing about you guys.
Dude, I appreciate it. That is
Thank you.
fantastic feedback, and I think if we can continue to strive to do that, we'll all become better people. And I'm glad that you felt that vibe because that's what we're trying to put off and go for. Uh,
Yeah.
so I appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words. And go
And
ahead.
second is basically I normally when I've been doing these things a lot, right? But again, I have some sort of hesitation or sort of fear when going to these meeting random people online and talking about life. But
Yeah.
again, as I told initially, there was this instant rapport. I don't know why, but that was really different.
Well, I'll say two things. I think one, we obviously are similar human beings, so I would give it obviously that we hit it off in the beginning. But two, a lot of people don't know Maddie and I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, so we are professionals at this point. And I hope at this moment we can help make people feel comfortable a little bit because we've been doing it for so long. But the fact that you felt that again really makes us feel good because that's exactly what we're going for. So thank you for that feedback, man. Um, let's like I said, we're gonna wind it down. I'll let this I know it's like 5 a.m. in the morning, just a couple minutes once we say goodbye, I'll turn the stream off. Would love to talk to you, just some follow-up
It's
conversation.
fine.
But before that, Matt's gonna say his closing comments. I'll say my closing comments and we'll call it a night. How's it sound?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll go for a run now. It's 6 a.m., but I'll go for a run
All
and then I'll
right, love it, love it. All right,
There you
Maddie, go
go.
ahead, man.
Yeah, man, this has been a great conversation. Um, First of all, just thanks for opening up. Thanks for not making it about ego and just being transparent with your journey, who you are, your upbringing, where your pitfalls were, what you learned from those. I think these are valuable things. When we were first talking before we even went live, I told you why we like to get behind the scenes and learn who people are and what that does for the space. And you have nailed it, right? At the end of the day, you do not have to be a Bill Gates level genius or a Mark Zuckerberg. You have to identify skills. There has to be a product market fit, right? Somebody has to want those skills and pay you for them. And if you can position yourself well, you can be incredibly successful. And to your point, what I loved about all of this was actually how you just closed it. Mikey asked you, where you see yourself in the future? And again, in a moment of transparency, you said, listen, I'm building this now, right? Because you're still committed to your ethos of like, how much money can I make and how fast? Because I want to sell this and go work on my passion. And I think that is just such it's a very notable thing to do because I don't think, one, most people don't have a passion. We've had people on this show and said, okay, if I give you $1 trillion now, what do you do? They don't know. They don't know. You know what you're trying to do. You want to give back. And in the same vein, you noticed how we kept directing it back to our audience. That's what your goal is. And man, that's a noble passion to be chasing. And so I commend you for it. You're razor sharp. Here's the thing: you were good at school because you're hyper focused on what you're doing, and you want to know how to achieve it at the highest level. And then you just directed that focus into entrepreneurship and how to win and be successful in life, and it shows. And so I think it's really cool hearing from you. You have a very mature way of thinking for your age, And I think it explains why you've had the success you have. I think it's going to explain why you're going to continue to have that success. And I'm excited to see it in the future. So thanks for taking the time. It's good.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Beautiful.
Sure.
And I will add a couple comments. The one thing that I have to just comment on and reiterate is, dude, there's a glow, there's an energy, there's an aura about you that was just really exciting to see. Very rarely do I meet people that can meet my energy level. You're one of the few. So it just was really cool to watch, and people need to see that and need to be able to live off of that, because I don't think a lot of people can do that. So it was special to see that. Two, I would reiterate, Matt, you're insanely sharp. Continue to learn, but don't change much, right? You can learn and grow, but like the mind's there, the ambition's there, maybe short term with the money, but the long term are the right ambitions. And I love that you're just you ripped out many books that Matt and I talk about all the time, but even more books. I loved how you kept on referencing that, because there are a lot of really, really good books as well too. And then three, I say this a lot of times in our stream, but I truly do mean this one. You are absolutely someone that we want to continue to build a friendship with. I'd love to have a meetup chat once a month to figure out how we can help each other out and grow together, because you are the types of people that come through our podcast, and every now and then we get somebody like you that's like, yes, I know we can really become good friends. And how crazy is this? Matt's in Florida, I'm in California, you're in Bahrain, you're like in a completely different place in the world. And we literally built a friendship online, like I said we were going to do. And it was beautiful to watch, man. And just appreciate you for someone like you that's that busy. Time is the number one valuable thing. And you just gave us the greatest gift that you could. So appreciate that, man.
No worries. Thank you. Appreciate it. One of the things that one of my mentors, because I like to have mentors, like people who have made it. So
Yeah.
he's like, he's built like 5-6 companies. And I told him, what is one thing that you can tell me that I can? He's like, Talha, focus on relationship. That is the only thing that will get you ahead in life. And I did not focus a lot on that, but now I realize that relationships are more important.
Yeah.
So now whenever I'm meeting someone, I focus on building the relationship, regardless if I'm getting something out of the deal. Because again, in any meeting, I have an agenda. I want to get something out of it. I want to give something. But now I've sort of, again, changing my personality is building relationships on longer term, where it's not necessary to have any transaction, but just building a relationship. Because that guy, he's a really good friend of mine, and he sold his company for $5 million just because he had built a really good relationship with one of the guys. So he told me, Talha, I was not expecting to sell my company, and I was not in that relationship for money, but I was just in a relationship providing value. There happened to be an opportunity where that guy helped me sell my company. Like, so focus on relationships.
Yeah.
So that's what he told me.
I love it, man.
Love it.
And with that being said, beautiful way to shut out the Midlife Crisis show for the week. We've got some more guests coming next week. Pay attention to our socials. We freaking love you all. Midlife Crisis is out. This is out.